A few days ago, this unusual beetle crawled right up to our house. It was very big, over 3 centimeters long, and had a smooth, streamlined body. We immediately identified it as a predatory water beetle, and it's called a water scavenger beetle. There was a river nearby, and he probably came from there. And yes, these big beetles, damn, they can fly. While the beetle was sitting in the jar, we were gluing together a small aquarium for it. To be honest, every aquarium we've ever glued together has inevitably leaked. But this time, we took it seriously, made smooth silicone seams, and squeezed out all the air bubbles. We ended up with a 9-liter aquarium, and now it's time to set it up. But this time, we took it seriously, made smooth silicone seams, and squeezed out all the air bubbles. We ended up with a 9-liter aquarium, and now it's time to set it up. First, we laid down river sand at the bottom. You need to lay the sand in a mound that thickens towards the back wall, and soon you'll understand why. These stones and sand were taken from the river, and just to be safe, we boiled them on the stove to kill any unwanted microorganisms. It was already possible to pour water, but tap water would not work. Aquarium water should contain millions of good bacteria that break down waste and keep the water clean. But for them to multiply on their own, it takes a few weeks, so we decided to just take some water from our old aquarium. We learned that the water scavenger beetle loves overgrown still waters, so instead of filling the water all the way to the top, we started planting underwater plants in the sand. And to keep them from blocking the view, we planted them at the back wall. That's why the layer of sand around it needs to be thicker. The beetle should feel comfortable in these underwater thickets, and in addition to this, the plants saturate the water with oxygen, and we even managed to film this process. A gas bubble accumulates at the thorn tip of the stem, and when it gets big enough, it breaks off and floats up. But no matter how many plants and beneficial bacteria live in the aquarium, a filter is definitely needed to keep the water clear. We took the smallest one, and it should definitely handle such a small volume of water. With minimal experience in setting up aquariums, we managed to create this little underwater garden, and no beetle has ever lived in such beautiful conditions. The cherry on top was the 2 plants sticking out of the water. In theory, our pet will be able to climb up there from time to time and take a breath. After all, it doesn't have gills, so it can't breathe underwater like fish. The water hasn't been perfectly filtered yet, but we figured the beetle would be more comfortable there than in the tiny jar, so we moved it to its new home. By the way, just like our spider, he clung to the jar and didn't want to leave it. But still, the beetle quickly ended up in the aquarium, and we immediately covered it with a glass lid. The beetle started exploring its new apartment, while we could calmly and comfortably observe it. It became clear that he swims so well thanks to the numerous bristles on his hind legs, which work like fins or flippers on fish. We even managed to measure the speed of this beetle. When he made a dash for the 20-centimeter mark, he managed to swim just a bit over half a second, and in 2 seconds if he swam leisurely just below the water's surface. So, in 1 second, he swims between 10 to 40 centimeters, or up to 10 times his body length. And in 2 seconds if he swam leisurely just below the water's surface. So in 1 second, he swims from 10 to 40 centimeters, or to 10 times his body length. If people could swim like this beetle, their speed would be around 60 kilometers per hour. But even though he feels just as good in the water as a fish, the beetle needs to surface every 10 minutes to replenish his air supply. He sticks the tip of his abdomen out of the water and pumps air under his shell. But after this, something strange happens. For some reason, the beetle starts releasing air bubbles. It's possible that he's just exhaling old air, but it looks like liquid metal is pouring out of him. In general, this beetle has to be an incredibly cool predator, especially in the water. So we decided to test that and introduced a guppy fish to him. We expected the fish to become prey in the very first second, but it seemed right at home. The beetle definitely saw it well, but he showed no interest at all. In the wild, water beetles feed on fish that are several times larger than themselves, as well as frogs and even toads.
Fairy tales. The beetle couldn't do that to the diving beetle.
Mark my words. Definitely get to you too.
We added the other fish and tried to feed them to get them closer to the beetle. Meanwhile, he was quietly sitting on a plant pretending to be a leaf. But that didn't help either. It was clear that the bloodthirsty predator didn't want to mess with the fish, as they were literally eating food off his back and didn't move at all. We couldn't leave the beetle hungry, so we decided to try giving him a sprat in tomato sauce. And he at the very least started to perceive it as food. But still, he didn't eat it. The next attempt was a piece of meat, and here the beetle opened its jaws and ate a little bit. But we still had a live earthworm in reserve. The beetle instantly pounced on it and grabbed it in a wrestling hold with all 4 legs. On each of them, especially the 2 front ones, there are long sharp claws, so the worm was doomed. But suddenly, the beetle quickly moved to the very bottom and then started trying to burrow into it. At first, initially, we couldn't comprehend exactly what was happening, but then it became evident exactly who he was attempting to pretend to be. Unlike a typical spider, this predator has no poisonous venom. He acts in a manner that is much less compassionately and unfortunately eats his prey alive. But don't rush to hit dislike, because earthworms definitely don't feel pain. But the fish definitely feel. And seeing what the beetle did to the worm, we immediately started to save them. Overall, by feeding on worms, the beetle lived with us for more than a week. And we decided it would be better to take him back to his native river. An artificial aquarium, where he's constantly disturbed, will always be worse than the large body of water he's used to. Winter is coming, but this species can live from 1 to 4 years, hibernating under the ice along with the fish. We brought the beetle to a place where there were a lot of algae and no current. He immediately realized he was back home, and once he reached the water, quickly swam away. Thank you so much for watching until this point. If you want, you can follow us on Instagram and our vContact page. And of course, give us a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And then there will be even more videos like this